Today we're going to look at radian measure. Now for trigonometry, we are going to look at a lot of the same concepts from grade 11. However, instead of degrees, we will be using a different measurement called radians. Now, radian measure is defined as the arc length, A, divided by the radius, R, of a circle. So when we have the arc length, right here, which is essentially the radius. So if we were to take the radius here with a piece of string, and then we were to take that piece of string and lay it on the outside of our circle, we would get this length here, which is the arc length. Okay, so this is the arc length defined by A. And then the radius is defined by R. Now, if we were to take the arc length and divide it by the radius, we would get theta, our angle. So theta equals arc length divided by the radius. Now, if I were to take this arc length and I were to go around my circle as many times as I could. So if I kept taking this length and I went all the way around the circle, we know that the circumference of a circle is equal to 2 pi r. So the circumference is 2 pi r. So if I were to take that and divide it by the radius to see how many times the radius goes around this circle, I'd be left with 2 pi. So that's why a full circle is 2 pi. Now in degrees, we know that a full circle is 360 degrees. So then what would half a circle be? If a full circle is 2 pi, then half a circle we would divide by 2 and we would just be left with pi. So when we're looking at the arc length, if it's equal to the radius, if we were to take 180 and divide it by pi, we get theta. And this is known as 1 radian. So if we were to take 360 and divide it by 3.14, or we to take 180 divided by pi, which is 3.14, we'd be left with our angle. So 180 divided by 3.14 gives us 57.3 degrees. So 1 radian is about 57.3 degrees. So when we're converting then, if we used 180 divided by pi to get 1 radian, when we're converting from radians to degrees, we're going to have to multiply by 180 over pi. However, if we're converting from degrees to radians, what are we going to multiply it by? We're going to multiply it by pi over 180 degrees. So we're going to look at a few examples. We're going to find some of these angles in radian measure. So if we had 75 degrees, and I want to convert it to radians, I'm going to multiply by pi over 180. So we get 75 pi over 180. When we reduce it, we're left with 5 pi over 12. 5 pi over 12. Now what if I had 150 degrees? So 150 degrees times pi over 180 would be 150 pi over 180, which we reduce to 5 pi over 6. Okay, give this one a try on your own. You have 220 degrees. So you can pause the video and give it a try. So after you multiply by pi over 180, you'd have 220 pi over 180, which when reduced, you'd be left with 11 pi over 9. So this is for degrees to radians. If I had radians to convert to degrees, for example, if I had pi over 5, we would multiply that by 180 over pi. Now notice these cancel out, so we would have 180 over 5, or 36 degrees. Now, we know that pi is equal to 180. So in other words, what we can do, we can just replace pi with 180 when we're converting. So for example, if I had 3 pi over 4, we can replace pi with 180. So it becomes 3 times 180 divided by 4, which would give us 135 degrees. So that's a little trick that you can use. Okay, so we discussed arc length a bit. So remember, when we're looking at the arc length, which is here, this is the distance around part of a circle that's related to the size of the angle created by the radius. So it's the curved distance. So when we're looking at arc length, we're going to take the angle in radians and multiply it by the radius. So A equals x, which is the angle in radians, and multiply it by r. Okay, so this comes from circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So if we have a circle and the radius is 45 centimeters, what is the arc length? How would we determine the arc length? So for this first one, our angle is 125 degrees. So what would we do here? So we would have x is equal to 125 pi over 180, which when reduced would give us 25 pi over 36. Now what if I was now trying to find the arc length? So this is x. So A is going to be 25 pi over 36. So that's the angle multiplied by 45. So A would be 98.13 centimeters. Okay, so what we did here, because we were given the angle in degrees, we converted to radians first, and then we were able to solve. Now, if I give you the question and it's already in radians, so say we had 2 pi over 3, to find A, you would simply just take 2 pi over 3 and multiply it by the radius, which is 45. So that would give us 30 pi, which is 94.2 centimeters. So let's try one more question. So this time, I'm going to ask you to find the central angle, so theta. So we don't know what that is. And our arc length is going to be 12 meters in our circle, and the radius is going to be 8. So what we would have to do here to find our value, we're going to take A equals x times r. So 12 equals x times 8. Divide both sides by 8. So x is equal to 3 over 2, which is 1.5 radians. Now, what if I asked you to give me the answer in degrees? Well, we would take our 1.5 radians. To change it to degrees, what would we do? So we have our radians, and we want to change it to degrees. So we're going to take 1.5 multiplied by 180. Divided by pi, and we'll get theta. So theta is going to be 270 over pi, which is 85.99 degrees, or 86 degrees. So just as a summary, when we're converting from radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 and divide by pi. When you're going from degrees to radians, you multiply by pi and divide by 180.